everybody. This is George K with Action Coach, and we've got a great interview for you today. We've got Dave Morrow. He's doing amazing things for our veterans, and I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. Dave, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, George, thanks so much for having me.
All right, so let's jump right in. Dave, I read a little bit about your background. Tell us, what was your motivation for doing what you're doing now? And we'll get into what that is in a second.
Really, I was in a bad place. I had no idea what to do, but I knew I needed to do something. And it turns out just taking action created a business. And so I'll elaborate a little bit more on that, because I used to be in the military. And when I was released from the military, I ended up teaching high school. And I was a high school science teacher. And
what a rewarding career move. I mean,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and I always wanted to be a teacher. My family, I come from a long line of teachers, and I just figured post-military, this is going to be my career path. But it just turns out it wasn't the right fit, and I was having a lot of hard times, just kind of struggling with the idea that maybe I'm not a teacher. And after the military, which was really my calling, I really enjoyed my time in the military. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I couldn't do the job anymore because I got injured. So because of that, I was kind of lost. And so I left my teaching career, and I was dealing with my injuries and dealing with my psychological issues and not really dealing with them well. I tried a new job. I got fired within a few months, and I just didn't know what to do or where to turn. So like any good infantry soldier, I decided to take on the most demanding, most difficult challenge anybody could do when you don't have a job, which is becoming an entrepreneur.
Create one.
Yeah, create one. Exactly. My wife was ecstatic, as you can
imagine. I'm sure. You're going to do what?
Yeah, exactly. She's like, sorry, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm going to create a business. I've never done this before, but it'll work. Don't worry, honey. And during that process, obviously the stress was quite high. And thanks to that stress, though, I seemed to work well in stress. I came up with a few ideas. One of the ideas was to write a book. So it's actually behind me right now. It's a Nimble Warrior. And that was because I went to a local regiment here to do a seminar on how to stay fit, how to get fit, and how to avoid injuries like I got injured. So I was talking to a bunch of young soldiers, and then I just did a after action reviews, we call them in the military, to determine what part of the day-long seminar I did was most valuable. And they said, well, we really liked all the stuff you did to show us how to not get injured. So how to use a foam roller, how to use a lacrosse ball, how to do some strength conditioning work. So I said, okay, cool. I'll put together like a 2-page PDF, and off it goes. The 2-page PDF.
Little did you know.
Just didn't cut it. It just didn't cut it. So it's like more context. And so, after about a month or so, I had a book, and I figured, well, why not publish a book? That's pretty cool. And then I started getting clients that wanted to learn how to get fitter and stronger. And so I kind of just, although I had the intent of starting a business, I didn't really know how to get it started. And it really was just taking action and kind of figuring it out as I went along. And that just grew into now having, an award-winning podcast, creating space for Canadian Armed Forces veterans to showcase their businesses in an international event like the Military Influencer Conference, and then create one here in Canada, and to have other speaking engagements across Canada as well. So it's really blossomed into something that I couldn't have possibly imagined. That's kind of all from just taking a big leap of faith and just believing in myself.
All right. So this is amazing. I love the give back part of what you're doing. It's something that is desperately needed, and I think anybody that is involved in the caring fields understands that the toll that working in such stressful environments like in the military has on a human being. Our veterans need all the support that they can get. So kudos to you for stepping in and doing that. Talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges you faced besides your wife, in getting your, and I'm sure she was an amazing support for you, but in terms of like getting this off the ground? I mean, I saw your background. You've got a solid education, got all that experience in the military. What were some of the hurdles that you encountered getting your business off the ground, like actually making money with your business?
Mm. So the funny thing was, money came in before I knew what to do with it. So that was a good problem to have, but it was maintaining it and then
Mm.
being able to fulfill and kind of not understanding why it happened in the first place. So my word of mouth was relatively good. I wasn't running ads. I didn't really have any social media presence because being a military guy for 15 years, most of us, well, at least Canadians, I shouldn't say, maybe I should just speak for myself on this one, but my Facebook profile was just a random picture for a decade. I would just lurk. I wouldn't comment. I wouldn't do anything. And then all of a sudden I decided to get into the online fitness. So it was a big kind of pivot to the online world where all of a sudden I'm out there. My real name is out there. I'm posting every day, but the fulfillment of, programs I really enjoyed. I like teaching. So that wasn't an issue, but the front end, how do I get people into my business that aren't just word of mouth? I had zero idea how to do that.
You obviously figured it out because I saw that you're an award-winning digital marketer. So what was that journey like?
Well, award winning, I wouldn't say I'm award winning. I mean, the podcast has done very well. So that is marketing in and of itself. And what I managed to do was just apply a lot of the things that I learned in the military, which is essentially consistency. Now,
Mm.
I'm not amazing at it. Like I'm not some guru. I all I do is I set up just some standard no fail missions that I must reach out X amount of times a day. I must follow up X amount of times a day. I must do the following. And it's really worked. And on the days that things are kind of going sideways and, as an entrepreneur, it's just any problem can come up that you've never planned for. Uh, it at least gives you some structure to your day. And over the last 5 years, I've taken the habit of making sure I look back to not always worry about what's coming and I haven't done yet, to actually see, well, I've actually accomplished way more than I expected. Now, am I happy with where I'm at? No, it's just it's a chronic thing for me. I'm never quite satisfied with where my business is at because I want it to
You
grow and
you
get
and
more
every other
successful.
entrepreneur on this planet. So
Right,
so you know.
exactly. But to answer your question, what was I lacking? I was lacking the fundamental skills to market. So I
Mm.
didn't know how to do email. I didn't know how to run a CRM. I didn't know how to set up Facebook ads or any ads from on any platform. I didn't know how to create a community online. All of those things I had to learn, and I value education. So rather than just try and figure it out on my own, I would rather pay to talk to
Mm.
the expert that's done it, be in their group, learn at a much more accelerated rate, and then apply it, time and time and time again. So that's the model I've applied since the start. So yes, it cuts into my bottom line. Yes, I realize I could have a greater profit margin, but I'm playing a long game. I got into this knowing that, look, this is what I am going to do. This isn't just, oh, I'm thinking about having a little side hustle.
Yeah, this is in between jobs.
This is in between. And so I wasn't quite sure for a little bit, but then I started realizing, I'm like, no, I love this. I just had this conversation yesterday with my wife. I go, I just had my perfect day. I got up, took the kids to school, no stress. We walked to school. And then from there, I was able to walk to work. It's like 20 degrees in November, insane. As you know, we're in the same neighborhood. And I got here, I had a workout, worked in my office, which I love. I have a sauna here. I got to chat with awesome people. I had an amazing seminar with an amazing influencer last night with my 30-day challenge. And then I got to hang out with my friends. I'm like, I literally created the life that I always wanted.
Yeah.
And it's all because I decided to become an entrepreneur. But it's what it's the fruit that you get to get at the end of the day once you've put in the work. So you've planted the seed and it's grown into something that I can see is bearing fruit, which is awesome.
Yeah. So I'm hearing a lot of things. I love the idea of saying you create your ideal life. You you have to deal with the discipline It's clear that your discipline is there. The idea of having your minimum, you said, I must do this, I must do this, I must
Hmm.
do this.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that discipline is there. But the fruit of that discipline is being able to create your perfect day or perfect days. So that's amazing. I love that. It's a great a lot of entrepreneurs say, oh, I want freedom, I want freedom, I want freedom. Well, freedom comes at a price. You gotta pay the price to get that freedom. But once you get it, you can sustain it, you can maintain it.
Hmm.
So if you were to go back, and you've been at this for 5 years now, so if you were to go back to, let's say, year two, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself?
Chill out, bro. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be all right. It's gonna be fine, man. Don't
Yeah,
worry. Um,
yeah.
and kind of go back to your last question too. I said, like hard skills like marketing and all that stuff, but really it's mindset.
Mm,
It all comes down to mindset because part of me, I, I did believe I could do the things, but one of the biggest things was like money mindset, always chasing money. The feeling of like kind of feeling dirty when you're saying, hey, the investment is $1,200. Just saying that out loud and being on
that's
sales
such a
calls.
Canadian thing, Dave. That's
It's a
so
very
Canadian.
Canadian thing. Yeah, because my upbringing was very middle class, very much get a good job, get a good pension, shut up and retire when you're 60. Kind of don't ask for more because that's not the way we roll. And because I grew up that way, it took a lot to get me past that hurdle. And I did a lot of work with a lot of coaches. Shout out to all my coaches that I work with. I've worked with a lot. And I didn't understand at first when I was getting coaching because I'm like, hey, just show me how to start a business. And they're talking about, all right, we're going to do some breath work. I'm like, I don't want to do breath work. Show me how to run an ad. They're like, yeah, we'll get there. So
I don't need
uh,
vision. I need members.
yeah, exactly. So ultimately it would be, hey, if I could go back and say like year two, like, hey, things are going to work out because let's say worst case scenario, this business goes bankrupt. And I already had a business that I had to fold because I didn't really get it off the ground. And so anyways, I had one failure under my belt already. I just go back and say, hey, even if this one fails, so what? You'll start another one. And you're gonna keep on doing this until you get it. So you have infinite amount at bats. Keep on swinging, dude.
Yeah,
So that would be it.
yeah, that's great advice. And of course, there's it's all transferable skill. Whatever you're going to do, all the things that you learned, all the skills you acquired, completely transferable to whatever else you're going to do. So that you can't lose. It's like education. You can't not win by having an education.
That's right.
So I love it. With the caveat, you have to apply it. You used the word apply several
Mm.
times. I learned something, I applied it. I learned something, I applied it. So many people out there, they learn things, but they don't apply it, or they apply it half-heartedly and don't stick at it long enough for it to reap any fruit. So
Mm. Well,
clearly not you.
I saw a really good quote last week, and I have a hard time remembering the quotes just in general, but I'll give you the general context. It's if you learn and you understand, but then you don't apply, you're the greatest fool of all kind of like
Yeah.
kind of line where it's like, why would you go ahead and learn all these things so well if you're not going to apply it? You've just wasted all that time because there's no application of the knowledge. So I that really hit home. Like it's true. Like you can get paralysis through analysis, right?
Yeah.
And I can be guilty of that at times too. So it's to avoid that, to really focus on what do I want to learn right now so that I can apply it in the shortest time frame possible. And as a teacher, oftentimes I didn't see that in our system, and that kind of frustrated me. And especially guys, I taught at an all boys school. I taught at Loyola here. They want to see the application right away. They
Yeah.
want to see
Boys are
the
usually kinesthetic learners.
Exactly. So that's something that I like to apply myself. If I learn something, I want to get, okay, well, how do I apply this in the real world, like right now? And so let me get the reps in the real world, and then I'll make the mistakes there rather than on pen and paper.
Yeah, I get it. So one of the things that holds a lot of people back, including entrepreneurs, is what we call imposter syndrome. And
Hmm.
that's usually the thing that holds people back, even though they may have the knowledge, they may have acquired some skills. you know, they're fighting those inner demons that say, well, who am I to teach this, or who am I to promote myself as some kind of expert in the field? I'm sure you had to overcome some of those feelings. Talk to us about what that was like for you.
You're talking about like it's in the past tense, like, oh, you had to overcome them. Yeah. Overcoming them is probably
Uh-huh.
more fitting. Yeah. The I think imposter syndrome, I mean, ultimately, if you're not trying and pushing the envelope, you won't have the feeling of being an imposter, because you're literally changing who you are, and that's frightening. That's terrifying. And of course, you're going to feel like an imposter. So if I get the feeling that I don't feel like an imposter, then I think I'll start to kind of worry if I'm getting complacent, that maybe I'm good where I'm at, and that is not the place I want to be at. So I have tons of imposter syndrome, and starting out, it was I didn't want to promote. I didn't want to say I was in the fitness space, because God forbid some other fitness influencer be like, "Who are you?" Or some other veteran be like, "Who are you?" Like, who are you to go out and start doing fitness programming? And on top of that, like, I'm a big guy, I'm fit, but I don't look like the shredded
Not the
fitness
Hulk.
influencer. Yeah, exactly. So, but then I just had to come to grips with the fact that I don't train anybody that wants to look like that. I don't want,
Yeah,
I train dads. What we want to be healthy, we want to be there for our kids, and we don't want to be in pain.
yeah,
Simple. Okay,
yeah.
so that's cool. Like
And there's
I've
plenty of
done some
market
cool
in
stuff.
that space.
There's tons of market in that space. And so um the goal for me was to accept that I'm going to feel like an imposter at times, and to just appreciate the fact that I didn't feel like an imposter when I was a teacher. I didn't feel like I was an imposter when I was in the military, because those were super comfortable for me. I knew my role. I could do it with my eyes closed. I enjoyed it, but the amount of growth was limited. I wasn't really growing as a person in those jobs. Like, there's a small period of growth, but then kind of stagnates. In the entrepreneur space, it's just nonstop daily growth, and feeling like I don't think I have the capacity to do this.
we
But
gotta we
then,
gotta change that. We gotta change that name. We gotta change the word for that, because you're right. It's not an imposter if you're constantly growing, which we all
mhm,
should be anyways, regardless
right.
of what we're doing. If if that feeling, I'm not going to use that word, I'm not going to use the is word, but if that feeling means that you're stretching, if you're growing, you're moving into areas that you're not comfortable with because you don't know them, and there's no guide, there's no clear set path to follow, like in the military, like in your other careers,
Mhm.
that feeling, that is word, that feeling means that you're moving into a space that is new. You're in undiscovered country. And yeah, you're going to feel uncomfortable in that, but it doesn't mean it's bad. And it doesn't mean
No.
you're not being who you are. You are basically creating who you are on the fly.
Yeah, precisely. And I think a lot of imposter syndrome is just the fear of the unknown,
Mm-hmm.
and the story that you're telling yourself, that people are saying in their heads, that you have no evidence that they're saying anything. Like, they're just living rent free in your brain, and
I love that.
most people don't even care what you're doing. There's so few people that pay attention, especially when you're starting out. You can make all the mistakes in the world, nobody knows. So
Yep.
make all the dumb mistakes that you can, especially when you have nobody paying attention. Then slowly but surely people start paying attention. But at the end of the day, if you're doing things truthfully, you're being true to yourself, and you're actually engaging in entrepreneurship because you have a strong why, that's going to come through, and people will understand if you screw things up, and the best people will cheer you on regardless, right? And those are the people you need to surround yourself with, not the naysayers, not the small percentage of people that are going to say, wow, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, your technique is no good, or that's not the way you're supposed to do it,
It's
or
like it's like, okay, then don't listen. You have to get kind of callous, be like, okay, well, then don't listen to me. Like, thanks for tuning in. See you later. There's other people that will probably hit the nail on the head for you. So it's getting a little bit callous too, and realizing that
yeah.
you're not, there's no way that you're going to please everybody. And especially myself in the podcast space. Yeah, I talk about my opinions all the time. God forbid I have an opinion that's different than you, right? But that's the beauty of it, right? It creates discord. It creates a chance to open a conversation. And, the individual that's in the arena is going to get all the arrows and the stones thrown at them because they're in the arena.
Yep.
So you just need to be able to accept the fact that if you're going to jump into this with both feet, like, people are going to be critical of you. You're going to make mistakes. You might even get sued. Like, that might get really serious. But there's either that option or like the other option, which is just you keep a low profile, you avoid conflict, you avoid chasing your dreams because you might fail. But then when you're 80 years old, the fear of regret is just, for me, that's the thing that drives me the most. I don't want to be 85 years old and think, why didn't I take a risk? Why didn't I just start that? Like, would I really be that worse off? So that has been my driving force. That's why I joined the military. That's why I went to Afghanistan. That's why I've done pretty much everything, because I don't want to have a mediocre existence. And
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is just a way to express a really fulfilling life. And even if I don't make $10 million, I don't care. I'm really enjoying myself. It's a hell of a lot of fun, Like, I
Well,
can't, I can't think of anything else.
that day you described a little earlier, that sounds pretty cool to me. Okay, so at Action Coach, we talk about dreaming. Dream. We have this thing: dream, learn, goal, plan, act. And it sounds to me like you had a very specific dream, a very specific mission. I read it on your website. What is your mission?
My mission is to help 100,000 veterans lose 2 million pounds.
Wow,
Yeah. And
that's amazing.
there, it came from the fact that I just had this conversation with my osteopath today. I really was upset that the military kicked me out for something that I realized I could fix if you gave me the time, the tools, and the space to do it. And I didn't want anybody else to experience that. If you
Mm,
want to stay in and do the job you love, you should be able to stay in and do the job you love.
yep.
And then I realized if I just focus on the veteran space, I see my friends. Most of us are veterans. I see a lot of other guys that are veterans as well that just aren't thriving. And when we were serving, we were just lions on the savannah. There was nothing we couldn't do. Give us a problem, it's done. But then we're out of that military context, and you see, like, you can do so much more. Why is your potential
What
being
happened?
wasted?
Yeah. What happened?
Why aren't you running a company? Why aren't you a CEO? Why aren't you? And I just came to the realization a lot of us are in so much pain, or like both emotional and physical. We're out of shape. We got exposed to so many different toxins. We have so many health issues that a lot of us just can't express our true potential. And veterans these days look like me. They're young. They're
Yeah.
not 85 years old. They're late 30s, early mid 40s, and we still got a lot of gas in the tank.
Oh, yeah.
But I want to make sure that we change our paradigm, and we understand that we can be pillars of our community, pillars of business, be politicians. I can get out there into the community, because I truly believe we're the next greatest generation on a very small context, because we spent 20 years fighting war, and there's the same people doing the war fighting both here and in the United States.
Yeah.
And the skill sets that we learned and the perspective that we have, we can't just sit at home and smoke weed all day and think that we can just fade away. No, like,
No.
our countries, our communities, our families need us. And in order to do that, I just recognize, where can I fit in this grand scheme of things? I'm not a politician. I'm not a paragon of business. Okay, well, if I can help the veterans at the base layer just be healthy, then they can go do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And that's where I focus all my effort, is to get the veteran individual healthier to a point that they can do what they want to do, because health is no longer a limitation.
Yeah. That's amazing. You're absolutely right. The values, the skills, the determination, the resilience that comes with service are all qualities that we all need. As Canadians, we need them in our leaders, we need them in our neighbors, we need them everywhere. So that's great. And I think it's really important for people to have a big vision, a big goal. I'm sure as a father, you're motivated to stay healthy, for your kids,
Mhm.
to give them a future, to give them the best future that you possibly can. So I think these are universal motivators that everybody has. And you're right, entrepreneurship does give you a huge platform to express yourself as much as you want. You don't
Absolutely.
have to be Bill Gates. You can just, have a strong business that's paying taxes, that's giving people a good place, a good safe place to work. Those are amazing values.
Yeah, precise. I mean, was it something like 60, was it 60% or more? You can correct me on that stat, but of the economy is just small businesses, it's,
Way more than that.
so it's
Way
like
more than that.
after COVID is probably a little bit lower, but like, it's the mom and pop dry cleaner, it's the small bakery, it's like you go down the street, it's all small businesses.
Oh yeah.
We forget that small business is the engine of our economy, and most of them aren't multi-million dollar companies,
Nope.
but they make a good living. The depanneur here at the corner of Pine Beach, like, his family's there. It makes a living for his family. So, these are the people that I wish were highlighted more, because once I became a small business owner, it became very clear, like, the struggle for a small business owner is real, and the majority of us are not going to turn into like a Microsoft.
Yeah.
You know,
No. And most don't want to.
right? Because that's
Most
the
don't want to.
sacrifice you have to make to get there.
Yeah.
I don't want to make that sacrifice. One of my reasons for becoming an entrepreneur was I like the military, but I knew if I did decide to make that my full-time career, which was my intent, I hadn't got married yet. I didn't have a family. I knew that was going to be hard on my like future plans, and my goal was really to have a family. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I don't want to be moved around and deployed and, be gone for so long. So that was a serious concern. And then as a teacher, the workload during the teaching like season, as I call it, was insane. I was working every weekend. I was coaching every night, and I just said to myself, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I don't want this, and I already had a young family. So entrepreneurship has been the solution, because I can make my own hours. I run my own company. Yeah, sometimes I have to work very late hours, but I do it on my own time. So I still get to go bring the kids to sports. I still get to go bring them to school. I get to be involved in their lives. And that to me is the gold. That's where entrepreneurship and being a small business owner has really helped substantially with my connection with my family. And that's why I'm glad I made that decision, 5 years ago.
I'm glad you said that because a lot of people shy away from entrepreneurship because it's not so much now, but you go back 10 years or so, and that word grind, the grind. They were
Hmm.
talking about 100-hour weeks and using it like it was a badge of honor, and
Hmm.
it turned a lot of people off on entrepreneurialism in the sense that they say, oh, I don't want to sacrifice my life for a 50-50 shot. Well, actually, it's much less than 50-50
It's
shot,
like,
but
like
it's like,
a 1090 shot, maybe. I don't
yeah,
know.
something like that. And that's a myth. Those things are myths. I mean, what you did, I mean, you looked at what you wanted, you assessed what you wanted out of your life, you went out and you found teachers, coaches to help you to learn the skills you needed to learn, and then you just applied what you learned on a regular basis. Yeah, you had a setback, but you picked yourself back up, took what you learned and moved on. It's not rocket science. It's really not rocket science, and it really just requires a little bit of training and a little bit of discipline and having the right people around you. You said that already, and that's amazing. Like having, if you have a bunch of people around you who think that entrepreneurialism is stupid, you might have a hard time.
But
But if you surround yourself with other entrepreneurs who've done it already, then you might have a much easier time of succeeding.
yep, that's exactly it. I mean, you're 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 the you're the aggregate of, or you're the, average of the five closest people, that, famous Stanford study that is more or less what the point that they're trying to get at, that whoever you surround yourself with is going to rub off on you. So make sure you surround yourself with the right people. So if you want to become a really successful entrepreneur, find really successful entrepreneurs and hang out with them. Like, it's just, I know it sounds silly, but it's true. You want to become a good athlete, hang out with good athletes, get on the good teams, like,
Yeah,
that's just the
it's
name of the game.
universal.
It's
Why do
universal.
we tell our kids? Why do we tell our kids to hang out with the right kids? Right? It's
Yeah. It's like, you're not
universal.
hanging out with them, you're hanging out with them. Like, oh, dad. It's like, you're not hanging out with them anymore. Period. Like, I don't want you to become like a sit in the basement, like play video games all day and never go outside type of kid, like get
Yeah.
outside, go play your kid. So yeah, absolutely. I totally believe in that philosophy.
Cool. Well, listen, this has been an amazing, amazing conversation. I love it. Where can people find you? Where is the best place for people to find you and to interact with you?
So the easiest way to find me is if you go to hardtokill.org. There you'll find my podcasts, you'll find news about me, my blog, and additionally, you'll get updates if you sign on to the newsletter for my upcoming book. And so
Oh,
you can,
cool.
yeah, that's going to be dropping at the end of this month for Black Friday. So it's called Harden the F Up. It's a compilation of some of the best podcast conversations I had with some of the world's best experts on fitness, health, nutrition, and mindset. And you can also go to go.hardtokill.org/book teaser, and you can add yourself to the list to be one of the first to get a copy as well. So yeah, that's the easiest way to find me. And then you can start listening to episodes. There's over 200 episodes on the Hard to Kill podcast, ranging from topics on, red light therapy to fasting and mindset, you name it. It's been on there. So that'd be the easiest way. And you can always drop me a message on Instagram or Facebook. You can just type my name in, Dave Morrow, and type in Hard to Kill, and you'll find me there as well.
Well, Dave, this has been amazing. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge and sharing your journey. I think it's going to be an inspiration to lots of people.
Thanks so much, George. This was a great conversation, man. Go Montreal. Go Habs, go.
All right.